Sometimes you just have to will things to happen
Yeah.
and project what you want to be and what you're going to be. And then you just keep repeating it to yourself until you make it happen.
Welcome to the 5th episode of Leading with Relevance. This is a podcast series featuring some of our most prominent leaders. My goal is to interview the highest personal and professional journeys of each leader and also understand a bit about their why. For the listeners, hopefully give you some practical insights into leadership and some things you can take away and tools you can use. I'm Tino Mantella's Chief Strategy Officer and loving the opportunity to talk to leadership. The podcast is going to run about 15 to 20 minutes, but then you're welcome to go on our website. It's kind of like what they do at 60 Minutes, where it's we're calling it Relevance Overtime. And so you can get the rest of the podcast there. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Richard Kopelman. I've known him for a long time. He's CEO and managing partner of Aprio. He has over 3 decades of experience in accounting and advisory, and also just from a standpoint of leadership. In 2024, this year, he was recognized by the Atlanta Business Chronicle as one of the most admired CEOs. So the company's been around a while, 72 years, but also it's one of the fastest growing accounting firms in the world. It's grown since 2016 from $70 million in revenue to $450 million. They used to have one office. Now they have 25, 1 to 25 offices over that time and 350 people growing to 2,100. So amazing growth and excited to talk. So Richard, welcome to Leading with Relevance.
Tino, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah,
And by the way, we actually also made the Inc. 5000 list this year.
Oh, very good.
Second year in a row, which is unusual for a business of our size.
Yeah, the larger you get, the harder it is. So that's an amazing accomplishment as well. So maybe talk about the early part of your life, what shaped you during those formative years, and 1 or 2 key figures, perhaps, that impacted your values and your trajectory.
Yeah, great question. So I would say I would say a couple of things. One is I went to, I think between 5th grade and 7th grade, I went to, if I remember correctly, 5 schools.
Oh, wow.
So change is something that really doesn't bother me because I, went through a lot of change in those years and experienced a lot of change. And then I started working when I was 13 years old. My mom was the top salesperson for a pre-need funeral company, publicly traded company, and I was her sales agent. So I came home from school every day and I made phone calls as a 13-year-old to set up appointments for prearranged funerals, which is a little unusual, I think, for a 13-year-old. Of course, my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was a top salesperson for multiple companies. So parents, were very influential. And then I had a professor at University of South Florida that made a huge impact on me.
In 1992, you were a staff accountant. So talk about your career path. I know nobody's career path is a straight line, but kind of the most important leadership skills you learned along the way. But those are 2 questions, actually, but kind of the career path and then the things you learned along the way.
Yeah. So career path was, I think, fairly ordinary. Maybe the first 10 years, 8 or 9 years, as I was learning my craft and moving up through the organization. And then I had a partner I was working with that decided to go work for a client the year I made partner. And that landed me in the role of, at my request, of leading our manufacturing and distribution practice. And that sort of led me to have a lot of responsibility early in my career as an owner of a partner in the business, and got me in front of some really cool audiences and in front of some great people. And I was definitely out punching my weight class early in my career. And after taking that practice tenfold over 10 years, from $1 million startup, restarting that segment within our firm, the partners said, well, you know something about growth. Let's see what you can do with the firm. And at a young age, in my early 40s, got the opportunity to take over the helm and lead the organization. One of the most important things that I learned, and as you know, we just completed a transaction where we raised capital from a
Yes.
private equity fund, and we took 200 partners through our process. We had 100% of our partners voted to do the transaction, and
Wow.
100% of our partners that were offered contracts signed contracts. And that is unusual to be able to get that level of support with the number of partners that we have. And I learned early on through a number of things. I learned a lot about bringing people along and a lot about transparency of information and transparency of process and over communicating. I,
Yes.
especially in a partnership, I don't think you can ever communicate too much to
That's
your
really good advice.
partners. And so balancing all of that, and I'm that way with our people.
You mentioned that you stepped up and you said you wanted to take the manufacturing lead. Talk a little bit about that because you hit, well, your early 40s, you hit the leadership role, but probably that step with manufacturing, I'm guessing, was a big step to show your leadership. So how did that all come about?
I was a brand new partner at the firm. I had just bought into the partnership, and I get this bomb basically that the partner that I've been working with, that we have been building this, building the momentum to drive this practice, decided to, leave the profession and go be in house with one of our clients. I didn't have a choice, and I needed to make it work. And so I walked into the managing partner's office at the time and I said, I don't know who's going to do this, but if you'll let me, I'll take it on.
That's cool.
And he said, yes.
The lesson there is for everybody. Um, if you have an opportunity to take a leadership role, even if you're, you know, maybe secretly thinking maybe you can't do it or you're not sure how you're going to do it, you just say you're going to do it and then you make it work. And oftentimes, that works.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
One of my partners says that sometimes you just have to will things to happen
Yeah.
and project what you want to be and what you're going to be, and and then you just keep repeating it to yourself until you make it happen.
That's a great
Don't
thing to
lose sight of
remember.
don't lose sight of the prize.
Do you want to talk about maybe a challenge and how you overcame it, if one comes to mind, or a
Sure.
failure that you learned, and then you sort of pivoted and did something else?
I have learned a lot from failures, and far from perfect, and it definitely builds a lot of character. The one that comes to mind is we had a team in one of our service units that the entire service unit left on one day, unfortunately. They didn't align to our fundamentals and our cultural values. And what I learned was that our team is extremely resilient. And so we circled the wagons, we buckled down, we invested the time, effort, energy in building the business unit back up. And today, as a result of those efforts and the grit and the willingness to win, we we've rebuilt that business to 10x what it was
Yeah. Wow.
just 5.5, 6 years ago. And that business is poised to grow 7x over the next 5 years.
Wow.
So we took lemons and made it into lemonade for sure.
Yeah. You're bringing on all these new companies that you've purchased. So, these are people coming in with probably all different mindsets and cultures. So how do you get them to meld into, one culture?
A lot of people talk about culture, and they talk about having great culture and great people and all those things. And of course, we're in the people business, so we have to, of course, make that happen. And how we do it is the Aprio brand, Aprio itself stands for head and heart. So to bring that to life, we created 31 fundamentals of behavior. I have one up here as an example, be proactive. And we practice one of those every week. We start practicing the fundamentals together. So it gives
Mhm.
us a common language and a common way to speak and deal with one another.
I love that. Do you have like a czar or somebody that's leading that effort that's responsible for driving the fundamentals, or is it more you and leadership?
It's very much a group effort.
Okay.
We pass the baton every week and give people an opportunity to participate in building the culture.
Jim Collins wrote a book, Great by Choice, and he talks about first fire bullets and then cannonballs. So what's your strategy with that in terms of your investments and
Yeah, I often talk about incubating things.
yeah,
So let's try 5 or 6 things
yeah,
and let's test them out in either small teams, if it's technology, let's say, or if it's a new service that we're going to bring to market, let's test it. Or if we're going to make a change in a process within the business, let's incubate that in a small team. And then once we see it working, then and I think this is something special about actually Aprio. Once we see it and it's working and we make the commitment, we'll make the change actually faster than most people think we can make the change.
that's great. So you've done a lot of M&A, and I guess in general, I like to from your strategy. I mean, how do you guys look at what a good investment is, and uh, you know, at least some of your growth has been through the acquisition side. But talk a little bit about that.
We have, as you mentioned earlier, we were one office in Atlanta seven
Yeah.
years ago. Today we're 25.
Wow.
We're continuing to build out a national footprint serving emerging growth companies. That is where our main focus is, especially on the traditional service side of the house. And M&A has certainly been a strong strategy of finding like-minded cultural fits that align with either the types of industries and segments that we serve, or finding new national segments, such as the DC merger we did last year that added construction and government contracting to the mix of segments that we're now serving across the country.
So you have a recent deal I think you can talk about with Charles Bank, because you mentioned it, the Capital PE out of Boston. And I think you've said, I'll quote you, I think will help to modernize and better meet the client's needs. So talk what you can about that and why you did it.
We believe that with a partner in tow, it'll make us better intellectually. It'll make us better from a speed standpoint, and it'll give us the needed capital to accelerate our 2030 strategy and beyond. We
Right.
made a conscious decision to investigate our options, and ultimately, I think picked an amazing partner in Charles Bank, and we are already 14 days in, already speeding things up and planning for some really amazing opportunity and amazing future together.
So I know you're a planner and you've talked about that already. And I know you sometimes have to pivot on the plan, but one of the things I'll just be specific because you mentioned it, getting 200 partners, I think you said, to all agree on the same thing. How do you bring everybody along to get 100% support for that?
A lot of time, a lot of transparency, keeping people informed,
Yeah,
uh, providing the details as to why I thought it was an important move, why our board thought it was an important change that we needed to make in the business. We believe in generating growth for purposes of, creating opportunity for our people in the business, and that will help retain and develop the best people in the profession.
How hard is it to talk to Richard Kopelman if you're a partner and say, "Hey, I want to, pick up the phone. I'm not sure I believe in what we're doing." Um, that's, a lot of people report to someone or have trouble doing that because they're not sure what the repercussions will be or whatever.
I've been lucky and continue to be lucky that I have a great board around me, great leaders within the business that have many of them that have merged in. Availability of leadership and making sure all the leadership is on the same page has been absolutely critical and paramount to everything we've done. And as far as getting a hold of me, I always tell people number one is text, number two is Teams, number three is email. And
One of your podcasts I listened to, they called you a matchmaker. So, people call you that, connecting investors, PE with the right projects. So talk a little bit about how you see yourself as a matchmaker.
I believe as leaders, one of the greatest thing we can do for people is connect people together that will improve their personal or professional lives or careers or help them take their business to the next level, whatever it is. And by helping people and giving to others, it will come back tenfold. And
Yeah.
I never really think about what's going to happen as a result, but
Right.
I think we should all pay it forward
Yeah. Love that.
and drive those meaningful relationship introductions and help relationships evolve.
Just talk to the listeners about how you feel it's important to have some kind of a network. I'm assuming you do because I know you mentioned it, a network group that you can kind of talk to confidentially, et cetera, et cetera.
So I'm a member of Vistage. I've been a member of Vistage for 15 years, actually, as of last week. I hit my 15-year anniversary
Congrats.
as a member of Vistage. And, for me, it is a day a month where I'm sequestered, if you would, in a room where we spend as a group the day working on each other's businesses
Yeah.
and not in the business. And I do think it's important that I think it's absolutely critical that people take the time to separate, a day or two a month and focus on getting things cleaned up and
Yeah.
catching up on things that have been dragging that just haven't gotten done because we're all busy and there's plenty to do in this world. And I think it's just absolutely critical that you have that group and that peer group to question what it is you're doing and you're thinking. And
Yeah.
and many ideas that we've implemented, not all of them are by any stretch, but some of the ideas that we've implemented at the firm have absolutely come out of my peer group.
Have you gotten far enough to say, what kind of, do you have a big investment or something you really need to do on the technology side to stay current, stay ahead of the curve?
So technology for sure across every business is critical today. We have already built out teams in the US and abroad that are working internally on automation projects. We're test piloting a number of AI software and tools and technologies inside of the firm. We view this as an opportunity to free up our people so that they can be relevant with our clients and they can be out advising and coaching and working with our clients more often and automate some of those other tasks that
Yeah.
will allow them to spend more time with clients.
Your industry is changing too. You mentioned it. Is there a lot of roll up, like a lot of industries where, the smaller organizations might be going away, or is there a place for them? How do you look at that?
We believe that big will continue to get bigger
Okay.
and small will remain relevant and maybe even get smaller. A middle ground is where we see the problems. We wanted to grow the business to escape that risk. And that's our view on the world, that it's gonna the technology investments, the scale that's going to be required to provide the kind of environment for the modern client and to create the modern CPA and business advisory firm is going to take scale.
Why is Atlanta a great place to have, leadership and your business foundational here?
Well, the easy answer is our founders started it in Atlanta in 1952
Okay.
and grew it from there. And Atlanta continues to be the headquarters of the business today. I think Atlanta's got a really fabulous business community in that the since the Olympics, especially the international flair and the types and variety of industries and the public number of public companies that are headquartered in Atlanta, I think make it an ideal environment for a business to operate, to scale, and to find amazing talent and
No.
leadership throughout the city. The other thing that I think Tino is cool is that it's a really welcoming community.
Yes.
And for me, I found it really easy to get, even as a young kid out of college, I found it really easy to get embedded in the business community.
So I had the pleasure of having a friend that you and I both know, David Cummings, on one of the early podcasts. And he talked about markets are more important than ideas and also more important than the people running it. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, and from my experience at Aprio, I turn to culture. And I know it's an overused phrase of, culture will eat strategy for
Yeah.
lunch. But for us, I think it's our inability or our unwillingness to lose and the grit that we have at the firm, the entrepreneurial nature of the business, maybe because of our founders and our desire to continue to drive the next generation that has continued to propel the business.
So, some people are all in on work, not many, but you seem to have balanced work, family, and community. You're pretty involved with the community, very involved with the community. So just talk about the importance of that balance.
So one of our fundamentals is make a difference.
Okay.
So and it's part of the fabric of the firm of Aprio. Our founders were all very involved in the community. And today our partners are very involved in communities all over the country. And we have the Aprio Foundation, which has given away more than $2.5 million
Wow.
over the last 10 years. And it is, it's part of our objectives. I always say make sure we're taking care of ourselves, make sure we're making sure we're taking care of our clients, and making sure that we're taking care of our communities because they've done so much for us. It is our responsibility to give back.
Outside of community, I guess your broader community is your own life experiences. I was reading that you've done safaris, visited the ancient ruins in Israel, deep sea fishing, skiing. Does this make you stronger leader, or just it's a time to chill?
I think that if you pay attention when you're traveling around the world, especially in different cultures and communities and your different experiences, that you bring that. I think you should, and hopefully people do bring that back to their own little world and their companies in terms of how you think about business, and also do you think about things locally, regionally, or globally?
Yeah.
And the world, as you know, is you go to
Smaller and
different
smaller.
places. I mean, it's very different in the United States depending on the community you're in, and I
True.
experience that every day with our own business. And then when you go around the world, it's vastly different. I think it has shaped my thoughts
Yeah.
and my approach to business somewhat.
Yeah. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice regarding what we're calling relevant leadership, what would it be?
I think make sure you're relevant, make sure your business is relevant,
Yeah.
not just today, but that you're laying the foundation and making the moves today that are going to make you relevant 5 years from now. If we didn't start growing, as an example, if we didn't start growing 7 years ago, our business would be becoming more irrelevant every single day.
Yeah.
instead of more relevant every day.
And, with that, I think you're too saying, staying ahead of the curves. Yeah. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you and appreciate you doing this. Thanks. Have
And I
fun in New
appreciate the
York.
time today.
All right. Take care.